Hey guys, welcome back to another Warframe video. Today I wanted to finally show this Lato mod after many rolls and many frustrations, mostly thanks to someone who donated a booster so I could get double Kuva. That made this process a whole lot easier because I only had to do 2 or 3 runs to get a roll. But I eventually rolled this, which is, it gives me 319.1% damage, which is really nice. 70% reload speed, which isn't, I mean, it doesn't really matter, because as you can see here, this weapon only has a 1 second reload anyways, and despite this being 70% reload speed, it only drops it down to 0.6, but I suppose it does help increase the DPS of the weapon. And then, as you notice here, it also has the 56 or 59.6% damage versus Corpus, which actually adds up to 375%. Now, in total, this is close to the max that you can get for a maximum disposition Riven mod. I think the max damage you can get is 420-ish% or something like that. So the 375 is getting close to that. But as you can see, it does have that very negative minus 88.2% fire rate. But fortunately, because pistol mods have lethal torrent, which is pretty much required for most pistols. Some pistols can go without it, but that fire rate, that 60%, actually counters most of this, so it actually only reduces it down to 4.79 with lethal torrent, which is actually still reasonable. That's almost 5 shots per second, and that's still pretty good for a pistol. As you can see here, this is obviously my Corpus build with Radiation and Toxin. The Radiation is mostly just there because of these two dual stats, because I want as much status as possible. Although it's not really necessary for a pistol like this, I'd probably recommend, if you did get a Riven mod, multi-shot would help. But this thing only has a 3% base status chance, so even with high multi-shot, you might only be able to get it up to maybe 40%, which would be good enough for Corrosive to proc often, or maybe slash proc, since this is a mostly slash weapon. But because the Toxin will ignore shielding, I tried to increase the Toxin as much as possible, but while still keeping the radiation damage, which helps for crowd control, as well as robotics. So once the shields are down on robotics, this radiation is going to do, I think, 50% bonus to the robotics, robotic health, like Bursas. And then Bursas also have alloy armor, which the radiation also helps against. And this actually melts Corpus, because, like I said, it's getting close to 400% bonus damage with this Riven mod, which is really good. As you could probably guess, it's less effective against Grineer because, and I have to go with Cold and Corrosive because this thing doesn't have good criticals, so I can't just go for basic, like, raw damage to punch through the armor. But as you can see in the footage in the background that I'll be probably showing, hopefully I won't forget, I actually brought this on a Kuva Flood with some other people, and it actually did okay against the level 80-ish light Grineer. Obviously, it struggled very heavily against anything that was heavier, like a heavy gunner or a napalm or a bombard or something. Plus, I kept running out of ammo because obviously this pistol only has 210 rounds in reserve, which goes very quickly, especially if your sentinel dies, which mine did very quickly. But I do have Cold and Corrosive, so it does strip armor eventually, and the Cold helps against the alloy armor, as well as occasionally slowing enemies. This build is also good against Infested. I just have to switch out Frostbite for Scorch to give it Heat and Corrosive instead of Cold and Corrosive, as the Heat will attack the light units like Chargers and Leapers, while the Corrosive will tackle the Ancients. And as you can see in the footage, it did decently well against the light units, but like I said, it struggles against heavy units, which you'll see here. These are level 100 Grineer with that first Corrosive and Cold build that I showed. As you can see, the fire rate is fairly low, but it is doing a decent amount of damage against the heavy gunner due to that heavy corrosive damage. And that was actually very good considering how low damage this pistol normally has. But as you'll see against the napalm, it's a little bit harder because it actually has to punch through more armor. Because Cold only has the 25% bonus versus the corrosive damage, which has a 75% bonus versus the ferrite armor. So I actually have to rely on crit chance, or not crit chance, rather, the slash procs and then the corrosive procs to be able to strip the armor. Almost. See if I can do this without dying. There we go. So, and as you can see there, I just killed 2 level 100 enemies, and I have 67 in reserve, and then 15 in the clip. So, basically about half my ammo was gone for 2 enemies, but those were level 100, and this is a basic pistol. So with a Riven mod, the Lato can become powerful, and as you can see here, like I mentioned, 15 slash, 7 puncture, and 7 impact, which is fairly low, and like I said, 3% status chance. If you did get a Riven, I'd probably recommend something like this, and like I said, multi-shot, but also crits could be viable because of the slash damage. So if you got a multi-shot mod, say with you got a multi-shot, crit chance, and crit damage, I think this actually could be a pretty good pistol because of slash procs, at least against Grineer, but because of this Riven mod, it's actually excellent against KhorCS, which I'm going to show now. And for this test, I've actually bumped up the level of the enemies to 145, just to see how powerful this actually is. One clip to take out the anti-Moa through the shields. And almost 2 clips for the tech, but that's actually very good, considering that I was only doing a bunch of toxic damage. Now, if I change the damage types around to viral and electricity, it's going to have to punch through shields, which is not a good idea. But if you have a mag, and you actually take away the shields, or maybe have the shield projection auras or whatever, the viral damage is going to be doing 50% to the tech as well, but it's also going to have their health when it procs, so it's going to be even more effective. And last but not least, like I said, I'm going to put the Heat mod on the first Grineer build just to show it against Infested. And as per usual, I'm going to be testing against the Ancient Healer, Electric Crawler, and Charger to cover all 3 Infested health types. I'm going to target the Healer first by aiming at the head. I got a few lucky crits there, but it only took a clip. Now we're going to move on to the Electric Crawler. Just basically 3 shots. And then to the Charger. Dead. So it's still pretty good. I mean, it is 300% bonus damage to any enemy, but it has also the bonus 50% or whatever to KhorCS. So this is best against KhorCS, very good against Infested, and okay against Grineer. So yeah, thanks for watching.